Hello my lovelies and welcome to today's video. Today's video is called Rising Signs 101. So today we're going to be talking about the rising signs, or rather the ascending signs. Keep in mind I am not going to go very in depth, which I could go into the psychological meanings, metaphysical, physical, philosophical, and just go more in depth altogether in this and the chart in general. But this is your 101 in the rising ascendant signs, as last week was for the moon. In the future, we will travel more in depth into what each sign means, if my audience would like to. Reason I'm giving this warning is the rising sign is now hitting into our houses, and now we're going into a much deeper meaning in our birth or astrological chart. And there is much that will be missing from today's discussion. So again, this is just a 101 class, I guess you could say, video. Again, going back to the beginning of yesterday, sorry, last week's video, everyone focuses on the sun sign, and that is why so many skeptics can say, "Oh, astrology is such bullshit. Oh, my zodiac sign does not match me at all. My horoscope is so off." Well, you are not just your sun sign, which is what we refer to usually as our zodiac sign. You are so much more, and that is why it is so important to look at your full chart. Today, again, we are going to learn the basics of the rising sign. And as you remember last week, yeah, I said the moon was more important than the sun, but the rising sign could be very well more important and the most important. The moon sign is really important right now because of the age of Aquarius and our emotional beings, and it's about our subconscious, and the feminine energy is more important than the masculine energy right now. But this is like a whole different level. This is starting to get into our houses. The rising sign is the first to get into the houses. Many books, articles I have read, as well as other videos of other witches, new agers, and so forth, have said that if you're going to read your horoscope, you should probably be looking at your rising signs horoscope for the day. And a lot of people don't realize that, because in the mainstream culture we're told that our sun sign is our zodiac sign, and that's what we should be looking at, and that's everything about us. And again, that's why people can say it's so much bullshit. So actually, if you put I think all three of these, the sun, the moon, and the rising, together, personally, if you know those three and don't want to go any further into your chart, you're pretty good at knowing the most about yourself. However, I'm going to recommend, again, looking at your full chart. So going on, again, the sun is the conscious self. It's the sign where the sun was at our time of birth. The moon is the subconscious self. Boom. Now we're going to go into the risings. So it's called the rising sign because it's rising at the point of the consciousness we are becoming. We are awakening. People's first impression is based on our rising signs characteristics. It also is about self-discovery. How do I understand myself and what I am becoming? Because it is, again, the first sign that's associated with our houses, which kind of is like a timeline and gives our in-depth of who we are becoming in our journey in this life. So it's the beginning. It's the rising. Just as the sun rises every morning, every sign is rising. We are rising. So it is our first impression. And it is in relation, again, to the first house, which we need to keep in mind also has a lot of anxiety and uncertainty with it. Because it's like in the newborn, it's the rising. It's the new, and it's the first house. So I'm not going to be talking about houses today. I'm just giving you that little fact to keep in mind. And again, that goes back to the association with people's first impression. So the best way to describe the rising sign is the sign that was rising over the eastern horizon at the time of your birth. Your rising sign is a very important part of your astrological personality profile. It tells you about your outward self, a social mask aspect of sorts. It, again, influences people's first impressions of you, how you act in social situations, how you view and relate to others. So how they view you and how you view other people, how you accept, and again, back to interaction. The self you present to the world is typically a balance of the sun and the rising moon. Or the rising moon, the rising sign. Wow. The moon is your emotional subconscious state. The main thing to keep in mind when learning about your rising sign is that unlike your sun and moon sign, your rising sign reflects a more superficial outward personality. For example, mine is Cancer, which in this position they come off as shy, subtle, kind, and intuitive when you first meet them, which is pretty much true. I mean, I do have social anxiety, I have anxiety issues, I have trauma, all of that. So I'm really like self-conscious and insecure and shy with people, and until recently I would always be the person, actually I probably still would be like this at parties, if I'm in like large group settings, I tend to stand in a corner and not talk to anybody and wait for them to talk to me. And I kind of am observing everybody and using more of my intuitive empath side to figure everything out. And to just verify if I am seeing myself correctly, I asked a couple friends as well as a family member about how I come off at first. And they said it's definitely true. And they could take the shy and switch it with anxiety. But again, anxiety is going to make you shy. So I guess it's true. Uh, this sign, get back to the sign. So that's an example. Back to the sign. It's the automatic response to one's environment. The ascendant or rising sign shows our natural defenses and how we cope with day-to-day issues. The energies of the sign and condition of the ascendant are most overt and obvious to the other people. It also shows an individual's natural reaction to new people and situations. So like how I said, I'm very shy and intuitive. I'll go and I'll observe. Now if I'm at a place where I know a lot of people, I tend to like be a little more social, but I usually don't talk to somebody unless they talk to me first. And I guess that's why I come off as an ambivert, because I become very social once I feel comfortable and I feel things out and I know how I'm supposed to behave. Because again, intuitive. And again, I'm way too kind. And I guess that goes into the empath thing too. And the Cancer probably has a lot of association with my empath and how I actually project and use my empath abilities. So I'm going to quickly go off into um, a little bit of a description of each rising sign. So when you do go and look up what yours is, you can already have an idea. People that have an, should I start with Taurus? I always like to start with Taurus because that's my sun sign, but screw it. I'll just start with Aries. So Aries people are direct and quick, and their first instinct is to do rather than think. They don't plan ahead, and they just simply just go. So basically, somebody with a rising sign in Aries, they're gonna stir up activity, maybe a little dramatic. They don't plan ahead, they don't think ahead, and their strengths lie in the way they go about things if it works out for the best for them. They also tend to not finish things that they start. Their mannerisms are just pretty straightforward and simple. Though they can be a little shy, that's very, very rare. A side note before I continue and go into Taurus is also the way that our rising sign behaves also has to do with our first house and what planet rules it. So this is not also set in stone. You should also look at what planet rules it, and that's why I'm not going in depth in this. That's why this is 101. So if your ascendant or rising is Taurus, you're going to be a little more about radiating stability. They don't have a very, they don't come off very strong. They have a very personal presence, but they radiate stability. They like to feel things out, which, again, going back to myself, since that's my sun, and then I have Cancer as my rising, again, that's probably another reason I like to just kind of stay in the corner and see how things are. Tauruses are not very flexible. They come off as possessive and like very determined. So that's how the Taurus rising is. The Gemini rising come off as very curious about the people around them. They're very interested about moving up in their social circles. So when you first meet them, they're going to be probably asking a ton of questions, moving around freely, and being the extremely extroverted social beings around you when you first meet them. Again, I'm not going very in depth. I'm just giving little basics. I mentioned a little bit about the Cancer rising, since that's what I am. And they're, like, again, very shy. They're very intuitive. They are people are unassuming about them. They retreat to themselves in the beginning, like when they first are meeting people. And just like my Taurus and my Taurus sun and my Capricorn moon, this goes very well, and this is probably why I'm so about security and stability in relationships. Cancer people want a lot of security in their partner in the relationship. Somebody that's like very emotionally stable and all of that. So that's how the Cancer rising is. Sorry about my voice, I'm kind of sick. That's why I'm a little bit out of it. Leo rising cannot help but be noticed. They radiate a special energy and are very magnetic. They're very loud and want a lot of attention. So that's Leo rising. Virgo rising people have a problem with getting people to understand them or understand their mannerisms and appearances. They come off as intelligent and reserved, and they're somewhat shy, but not as shy as Cancer, just enough to be able to analyze and then they quickly move on. They're quite modest. To give an example, a famous person with a Virgo rising is Kurt Cobain, and he was very much to himself, and he didn't like the attention that was given to him. So that's a good example. And I'm going to mention Kurt Cobain anytime I get, so I finally got a chance. Okay, Libra rising signs. They come off as nice, pleasant, and chill. But they're nice people, but they tend to have a lot of problems once you get to know them. They have a string of relationships, and they attract people effortlessly. So that's them. Pretty nice, pleasant, laid back, whatever. Not much else to say about them. Scorpio rising people have a lot of presence about them. They cannot be pushed around, and they're very powerful and determined and loud. And that is how they come off when you meet them. And I think everybody would assume that, knowing anything about Scorpios, so that would be the Scorpio rising. The Sagittarius rising come off as people with a lot of hope. They have a lot of faith and enthusiasm. There's not a lot of follow through. They make a lot of promises and come up with all these schemes and ideas, but they don't always tend to follow through. So if you have a Sagittarius rising, work on that. Capricorn rising, they come off very serious. They don't just laugh or whatever at a joke or respond to somebody. It's all about time and perfectionism. They come off very perfectionistic. They're very much about wanting to come off as successful, and all they really care about is succeeding. Again, I'm only talking about their first appearances when you first meet them. Aquarius risings, of course, come off as unique and original, because what else would an Aquarius be? They also come off as very intellectual in metaphysics, science, and psychic, just psychic, witchy stuff. They also like to go for the shock value, so they might be the really, really shocking ones. They are friendly and likable, though, because of course that's all Aquariuses are. And finally, the Pisces rising. They just go with the flow. They're the kind that just come off as artists, very chameleon-like people. One day they're really dreamy and soft-hearted, the next day they're talkative and passionate. So it's all about the day that you meet them. They just come off as gentle beings. Again, they just go with the flow. They don't want too much organization or structure. So if you're a Pisces rising, that's how you are. And basically, that's all for today. I just wanted to give a very basic as to what the importance of your rising sign is and give a little bit about what each looks like. Below, I'm going to include a link where you can find out your rising sign and your astrological chart. There are better sites, but I'm just putting something quick so that you can have like the basic idea, and then you can go and look. And also look into what planet rules your first house and how it interacts with your rising sign, because that will help you to understand yourself even more. Once I found out that Cancer was my rising, everything kind of made sense to me. In the future, if people want, I can talk about your Venus because that's kind of like your relationships and how you react and interact in those. Though your rising sign and your moon and your sun all have a great big part, each one in a different aspect, that's pretty important. For instance, mine is Aries, which kind of actually contradicts everything you've learned about me so far with being a Taurus sun, Capricorn moon, and Cancer rising sign. So it would be interesting to discuss, and for all of my followers and people that are watching my videos that want to learn a little bit about me can kind of see my contradictions. As my best friend and soul sister Cheyenne, who I've mentioned before, said when she saw my chart, she's like, oh my god, this is like the biggest contradiction ever. Like right now, when you're hearing a little bit about me, you're hearing how like everything flows with the Taurus, Capricorn, Cancer, but after that, it's pretty screwed up. Like where my Scorpio is and where everything else is, it's just like, come on, guys. Going to university is just screwing with me. No wonder I'm so like all over the place. But yeah. So also, I do have an Instagram now. I don't have many followers because I haven't really pushed it yet. So it is Lilith Laboratory, not with the S, it's just Lilith Laboratory. So if you're an Instagrammer and you want to follow me, go for it. I post a lot about empaths. I've only had a few posts, but I have a post about empaths, some stuff about Mercury retrograde, which starts tomorrow. So yeah, some great stuff. Also, if you haven't liked my Facebook page, please do. It's going to be below. I am now selling bath salts, all of the same as the bath bombs. All my products are on sale for this week and then half of next week because it was a 2-week sale. I am also considering making body scrubs for those who don't have baths, because one of my witchy friends mentioned to me that they don't have a bath, so they really want to buy my products, but they don't have a bath to use them, so I'm considering doing that. And again, coming out soon are my power oils for all the astrological signs, all 12, and there will be a deal for people who want to get their sun, moon, and rising, or just their sun and moon, or whatever. I'll make a package deal, and you just tell me your chart, or your birth. If you don't know what yours are, or only know your sun, you can just give me the information, and I will figure it out for you. And again, as always, like, love, share, subscribe. I love you all, and thanks for hanging in with me while I'm kind of sick and not fully with it. So, alright, yeah, love you all, as always. See you next week, or maybe I'll have another quick video later this week. Who knows? We'll see how it goes.